Welcome to Organize with Grace, where we choose to declutter our homes and get organized to make room for peace in our hearts. If you have been listening to any amount of time to this podcast, whether this is your first time that you're listening or you've been here from the beginning of the podcast, know that I appreciate you so much. And if you've been part of this ride since 2019, as I've made changes to this podcast, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. It all started as a personal finance podcast, and then I rebranded it as a home organization type podcast. And then now I'm getting even more specific and talking directly to you, my beautiful women who, like me, are in their midlife season. And for those of you who have been here for the long haul, especially those who have told me that you've listened to every single episode, and I know this because you have personally told me, and I love you so much for letting me know. I am so humbled to know that in the full life that you are living, you took the time to listen and you took the time to tell me that you've listened. And so I am forever grateful. And like I said, this podcasting journey started in November 2019, and it has been just that, a journey. And podcasting has changed my life in so many ways. And as we progress through the future episodes, I'll take the time to tell you stories of how it has done that with me, how it's changed my life. But for now, for this episode, I want to focus on the parallel between starting a podcast and decluttering your home or your space. So check it out. I've now come to realize that I've approached a lot of it all wrong, even with a guide. I purchased a podcasting online course, and despite all of the things I learned from it, I still got many things wrong. And I guess maybe not all wrong, but I was so eager to get it off the ground. And I drank that proverbial Kool-Aid about podcasting, that it's easy. And someone's promised that I would get lots of followers quickly and that my online business would take off like a rocket. And on the other hand, there are others who told about the realities of podcasting, that it's for the long haul and that consistency is key. So I've teetered between the two extremes, and the wrong approaches that I'm going to tell you are the following. So there are three that I realized the mistakes that I had made. Is that one, I focused too much on the tools instead of what I truly wanted. And then number two, I focus too much on what others are doing instead of creating my own brand. And lastly, I worried too much about what others might think and catered to whatever everyone else wanted. And with these three, I saw it being parallel to the journey and wanting to be decluttered or wanting to declutter. So number one is focusing too much on the tools. So I grabbed all kinds of blueprints and frameworks from others who have been podcasting, thinking that it would somehow I'd make it fit to what I wanted, or what I thought I wanted, what I thought a good podcast would consist of. So moving over to the decluttering phase, we tend to purchase the containers first when we decide or when we get motivated to start our decluttering and organizing. And we run out to purchase the containers and all the cute stuff. And I understand it's easy to shop for the new things. It's more fun. instead of dealing with the clutter that we currently have. And we kind of, I guess, in our minds, maybe, or maybe this is just me, we make it not fun. It's like such a dreaded task in our minds to get that pantry or closet organized. And yes, realistically, it is. It's not that much fun. And that's why we home organizers exist, because we love doing that kind of stuff for you. I love doing it. And so that's why we exist. And so that's the one mistake that I realized that's kind of parallel to the decluttering journey, is that we run out and purchase the items first. We purchase the containers, and then we don't really know, we don't really have a clear vision of what those containers are going to be for and where they're going to be and what purpose they're going to have. And in my podcasting journey, I did that a lot. I purchased like a bunch of courses. Up to this date, there are still some courses that I didn't even get to finish, but it didn't stop me from like moving forward. So meaning that, gosh, maybe I never needed those courses after all when it came to getting this podcast off the ground. And maybe you don't really need all those containers that you initially purchased to help you get decluttered. And so another parallel that I see, that I've noticed between starting a podcast and decluttering, is getting distracted. This is so easy. This is too easy to do. And that is the second mistake. We get distracted, or in my personal experience, I got distracted, and I'm not saying that I've like overcome this. Um, I got distracted by what others are doing, about the other people that are having a more popular podcast, or they have more downloads. And then I started to like compare myself. And so, parallel to wanting to get decluttered, have you ever done this where you're like, okay, I want to get some ideas on how to get my pantry organized, and then you get distracted by all of the YouTube videos, the before and after pictures that you see on Instagram, and then those videos that have been sped up, right, to make it seem like it's really quick and really easy to get decluttered and organized. Now, look, I'm not knocking any of that at all. They do serve a purpose, but it's not reality. Sometimes it takes a whole day to declutter 2 drawers. And we need to, in our minds, know that that's okay. It's okay not to be able to declutter a space in one day, because sometimes it's just not possible. And so that's another mistake that I have noticed when it comes to um, starting something new like decluttering or podcasting. And then the third mistake is, this is really something that many of us maybe don't notice as much, is allowing that voice in our heads to win. Okay, so in the podcasting world, it would be the voices that I've heard, is that, oh, Grace, you'll never, let me think of what happened in my mind at the beginning. Oh, you'll never be as popular as this other person, or you're not going to have that type of like following, or what am I going to say to my listeners? Who am I to be talking to people about getting organized, because I myself can't do XYZ? So these are the very discouraging things in our minds that that we tend to listen to. And with decluttering, you may hear little things that you might even say to yourself, like, oh, well, I've always been a disorganized person. So, there's no hope for me. This is hopeless. This is too much stuff. And I'll never be organized. So, all of those like always and never type statements will get you to lose every time when you allow those types of voices to be, when you allow yourself to listen to them. And so for me, with podcasting, I had my starts and stops. I had my times of discouragement, and there were times that I was just like, what am I doing all of this for again? And I've lost my, vision type thing. But had I allowed myself to get discouraged by these mistakes, I would not be here right now talking with you. Um, Almost 3 years later, I would not be continuing on with this podcast. And having the courage to try new things, to pivot, to meet more wonderful people in person and on the interweb, because of this podcast. The You probably listened to a lot of the interviews I've had, and they were so much fun. And I have had the privilege to talk to people that I would not have been able to talk to otherwise if I didn't have a podcast, and to bring those conversations to you so that there is um, something new that you might learn, or I might learn. I'm constantly learning, so just don't think that I know it all, because I don't. I do not know it all, and that's why I love to talk with other people that are smarter, that I have been through lots more life experience than I have. And so today, I don't regret the wrong approaches and mistakes I made, because through it, I'm discovering more of what I love doing, the people I want to talk to and work with. And so the third mistake is, between podcasting and decluttering, is allowing that voice in your head to win. And in fact, I want to tell you that I'm more happy these days to make mistakes, because I'd be glad to make mistakes for you if you are afraid to do that. Because I feel like it's where I find a better way of doing things, or a better way of thinking about problems, or a better way of approaching any uh, trials, I guess, in life. And so these three is what I found to be like the common parallel between podcasting and decluttering. And so what's my point? Well, if it so now that I've given you these three mistakes, what are we to do instead? So instead of running out and purchasing the tools, may I suggest that you write down your why, and don't type it, don't put it in your phone, but get a piece of paper and a pen and write down why you want to declutter in the first place. And writing it down gives your brain and your mind the opportunity to slow down a little bit as you write. So it doesn't have to take long. It can be like 5 minutes, and ask yourself, why? Why now? Why do I want to declutter my home? Why do I want to get organized? Because this why of yours is the one that is going to keep you going. And I'm not saying that it's the only thing that's going to keep you going, but it's really an anchor for you. Because if there's no um, if there's no rhyme or reason, if there's no purpose as to why you want to get decluttered, it's going to be really, really easy um, to get distracted, by others, to get distracted by YouTube, by Instagram, Facebook, or other people in your family. So write down your why and share them with me. I love email. So share with me your why at hello@organizewithgrace.com. I would love to hear about it. And then number two is what I shared with you with, like, speaking of getting distracted, this will also, writing it down will also help you from being distracted. And also think of your space regarding trying to not get distracted. Focus, I've been saying this a lot and I still say it today, that focus on one area in your home, in a small area preferably, where you would like to, a place that you would like to get decluttered. And think of this one space as a project that you will tackle. And the great thing is, like any project, there's a beginning, middle, and end. So be encouraged of this, because the decluttering will not last forever if you just focus on one item at a time, or one space at a time. Unless, of course, you continue to purchase and accumulate, then the cycle only starts all over again. And so that is a whole nother episode, right? So beware as you declutter, beware of the things that you bring into the home, because um, it's going to just continue the cycle. And so I'll make sure to make a note of that so that we can talk about the cycle of accumulation and how to stop that. And that third mistake of allowing that voice in your head to win. So instead, I would say, you know what? That part of you that's saying discouraging things to you, kick her out. Say, you're out of here. I know it's easier said than done, but really, truly, take an inventory of these things that are going on, or these thoughts that are in your mind, and see if there's any evidence of it. Like, for example, oh, I'll never be organized. Well, is never truly something that is a fact? Are there ways that you can begin to get organized, and it's okay to need help getting started? And that's what I'm here for. So really investigate the things that are, the comments that you're making about yourself. Like, we tend to put ourselves down a lot, and I wouldn't want that for you. Kick her out. Kick out that voice. And I'd love to show you how, if we if you would like to have a conversation about that, let me know. And so this new pivot, I hope, will give you encouragement, will continue to give you encouragement, hope, and that I'll really want to tell you the realities of decluttering and getting organized, that it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's possible. And it's possible for you. And it takes time to learn the skill of decluttering and getting organized. So be patient with yourself. And I have one more interview to provide to you at the end of the month. And I had such a cool conversation with Ashley Brown about routines. And so I want to bring that to you at the end of the month, and then take off for October. So, yes, I am taking the month of October off to plan and record episodes for the revamped podcast. And I hope this doesn't happen, but I may lose some of you during the month, and I may lose my top 3% global ranking. But I'm coming to terms with the fact that these stats will not stop me from making this podcast something that is valuable and worthwhile for you to listen to and be a part of. Those rankings and stats, I mean, honestly, I'm human, right? I compare, and as I go, I know that it will eventually take care of itself. And I really want my focus to be those of you who are listening right now, those of you who are loyal and soon to become loyal to this podcast. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to see you in November with more episodes, and I hope that we can keep in touch in the meantime. You can catch me on Instagram at Organize with Grace, and then on Facebook at Organize with Grace FB. And you can always visit my website, and that also will be up for revamping. But in the meantime, email me and let me know what your number one takeaway of this podcast episode is. My email again is hello@organizewithgrace.com. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for the interview episode with Ashley Brown in the next couple of weeks. And then I will talk to you again in November. Bye.